So you want to win at arm wrestling. So what do you need to do and what do you need to understand to do it efficiently? So maybe you want to arm wrestle your classmate, your older brother, your grandmother. I don't care. I'm going to give you 3 tips for 2 of the major techniques in arm wrestling. One is called Toproll and one's called hook. So first, Toproll. Toproll is literally top roll, means I'm going over the top and I'm rolling your wrist back like this. So to efficiently do a top roll, first thing you need to understand, even though you might think arm wrestling is pushing, it is more pulling. So he's gonna pull his arm closer to him, I wanna pull it closer to me. So this is literally how it goes. So that's tip number 1, for you to understand that arm wrestling is pulling, not pushing. You don't have to come forward, you can stay a little bit back and just pull your opponent's arm closer to you. Second tip, you have to load up on his fingers, because if you don't load up on his fingers and you're just trying to hold him and pull him, it's going to be almost impossible to open his wrist or top roll him. Right now, like from this position, it's very hard, right? Feels right there. But if I have a higher grip and I get the tension on his fingers, now it's much harder for him to hold me. I can pull back and I can top roll. So that's tip number 2, and it's very, very important. If you don't put a stress on his fingers, you need to be very, very strong to open them up. Tip number 3, stay high. What does that mean? Not what you think, a little bit differently. You want to be very high on their hand. So arm wrestling rules state wrists must be straight or flat and thumb knuckles must be seen. So if we are in this position right here and you can see thumb knuckles, perfect. But if you take the grip too low and you give it up too much, you don't have a really good position. And if he has a very good position right here, it's going to be very hard for me to, first of all, put the pressure on his fingers and to top roll. But if you take a grip higher, you try to keep your knuckles high right here, thumb seen, wrist flat, you can load up and you can roll to the side. So show it how it's done. You load up on my fingers, you stay high, you pull back, and then you go sideways. Perfect. So in this technique, you still need to cup your hand a little bit or curl your wrist like this, but not too much, because if he does it a little bit too much, do it a little bit too much, we end up in a hook, right? And that's technique number 2. So one more time. Step number 1, pull, not push. Arm wrestling, in some other words, is also called pulling. So if you're gonna hear a term pulling, that's what that means. So pulling, not pushing. Second thing, load up on his fingers, put the pressure on his fingers. And number 3, stay high. So you don't pull yourself like this, you pull yourself like this. So now I have this high ground and most of the time I'll be very successful. If you're pulling someone that is also an arm wrestling beginner, most of the time the wrist and the grip will not be the strongest. Arm is the strongest. So you usually can win your matches just by putting a little bit of pressure and pulling from here. If they start with their wrist bend, tell them that's not fair. Fair arm wrestling, wrist is straight, thumb knuckles are seen. So this is just a quick explanation of a top roll. If you want to get more in depth and if you feel like you want to learn more and you want to get better at arm wrestling, I created Arm Wrestling Academy and you can find a link in description. Do you want to win at arm wrestling? You have watched countless YouTube videos, but instead of clear answers, you're left more confused than ever, realizing that arm wrestling isn't as simple as it seems. Worst of all, you don't even know where to begin. You put in so much effort in training hard, but you just keep losing. And at the end, all you get is more pain. Trust me, I get it. My name's Coach Ray. I'm a professional arm wrestler with 2 decades of experience. I know the struggle, and that's why I created Arm Wrestling Academy, a complete step-by-step course that helps beginners to become champions. You'll get the powerful training plans, pro-level strategies, learn to master techniques, and stay pain-free. The big difference is you want everything to be, that's the most important. Trust the process, follow the steps, and soon you'll be losing less and winning more. So, are you ready to become an arm wrestling champion? I'll see you in a course. Now, hook. Hook is the opposite. So, as Toproll said, it's roll over the top, and hook means I'm literally making my hand into a hook and pulling opponent closer to me. So, Toproll is more attack on the hand, hook is more of attack on the arm. So right now, I really don't care about his grip. So tip number one, don't take too high grip, because too high grip, you might have problems of hooking, because if he's also very high and he top rolls, I might end up like this and I can't get my wrist bent, right? And that's tip number two. You want to get your wrist bent. If someone says that's not allowed, they have no idea what they're talking about. So you want to take tip number one, a little bit lower grip, a little bit forward. Tip number two is bend your wrist. As soon as we start to arm wrestle, let's start. Go, boom, I bend my wrist. And now we are in this hook motion where our arms are fighting, not our hands. Tip number three, stay close. What people always do as soon as they hook and they open up themselves. Now you put yourself in a very bad position. You're very far away from your arm and you will be much weaker there. If you can stay, so tip number one, take a lower grip. You take a higher grip and take a lower grip. And tip number two, bend the wrist. Tip number three, stay close and then pull to your side. Nothing changes. You're still pulling. You're still pulling your opponent's arm towards yourself, like this. Show it how it's done. I'm gonna take a higher grip, you take a lower grip, and bend the wrist, boom, and hook to the side. Perfect, just like that. So this is very, very basic. I recommend everyone, if you're interested, to watch the video on how not to break your arm, how to stay injury-free, because people still think arm wrestling is something else, what it's not. Arm wrestling is mostly done on these kind of professional tables. You can always use just a flat surface if you have some padding under your elbows, and you can arm wrestle there. But I recommend everyone to watch the video to stay safe. Arm breaks on these kind of tables are extremely rare. When I mean extremely rare, I mean really extremely rare. But arm wrestling in bars or in schools, people hurt themselves because they still are pushing, not pulling, and they're using arm wrestling techniques incorrectly, making up their own rules, which don't make arm wrestling safe. So to stay safe, use the things that I teach you. Doesn't matter if you're pulling top roll or hook. If you want to learn more, if you want to get more invested into arm wrestling, if you want to become pro, if you want to become a champion, I made an Arm Wrestling Academy course where I go in a very deep detail about so many things and just basic things that any beginner needs to know, as well as 3 training plans, from having 0 arm wrestling equipment to having arm wrestling table and cable system and all the beautiful handles. So check the links in the description. Stay strong. Love arm wrestling.